first product to cover, which is a little bit more readily available here in the United States at least, are the Silflor mats. And these are available, a lot of these are available at Scenic Express, perhaps other places, but Scenic Express seems to have stock and you can get them relatively quickly. These are some of the variety that I have. These are really all left over from my old layout. Initially I used them and I didn't really like them, but then I realized that I wasn't using them correctly. These are meant to be cut up, placed among other ground cover, and kind of worked into the overall scene. And again, there's a variety of different ones. I'm not going to cover each and every one of them. Just go to Scenic Express, look at Silflor, and they'll all come up. You can look at the different ones. I've got several different ones here. You can see the ones that I have: high pasture, a moorland, a pasture with weeds, high pasture summer, moorland late summer, and pasture with weeds summer. Here's what they look like. They're a thicker material. Yeah, I don't know how well this will capture, but it's thicker, and you can see it's definitely more 3D, which I feel is a problem with a lot of the scenery that you see around. It's just ground foam, clump foliage. Yeah, perhaps folks are getting more into the static grass, which looks a lot better, but these really kind of kick things up a notch, as opposed to just I guess the way I can describe it is vertical. When you look at this stuff, it looks more like real vertical pastures, fields with weeds and higher grasses and whatnot. So that's what the material is. It's not inexpensive. Again, you're going to be spending some money if you're going to scenic the layout using some of these products we're going to see. But again, to me, it's worthwhile. And you don't use these the way I originally did. You know, it comes in a big rectangular mat like that. You know, you don't just take those and boom, and plop it on there and glue it on and say, yep, there we go. No, you cut them up in different size pieces, and you kind of, you put down maybe a base layer of ground foam, Woodland Scenics ground foam, or something like that. And then you take these based on the scene you're trying to replicate, and you cut them up into different, random type sizes that kind of fit together. You can even pull these apart and tease them to make them a little bit thinner, and then you apply it over your base level, and then you can also come back and work in more ground foam or dirt or soil, into to make bare spots. Because again, initially out of the package, it obviously looks somewhat too plain or too monotone, too consistent. Although it doesn't look bad. I mean, even looking at that, you can see that doesn't look all that bad, and that's just laying here. I just took it out of the package. You do get instructions, not very in depth. It shows you kind of what to do. Again, you kind of cut it. You can cut it into small different pieces. You put some adhesive on the back. They show Tessa Alls caliber, which is not available here in the States. I actually thought about buying some from Germany, but again, I'm not that crazy. Although I'd like to get some, but if any of our German folks want to send over a couple bottles, I'd pay for shipping. And here is kind of you put it in, and then you kind of poke it with tweezers, and then you let it dry up, and you can kind of see the scene that you can get. Here's a sample, and that's probably several different products. So these are, again, more popular, or more available, I should say, here in the United States at Scenic Express. If you're interested, I'd suggest you pop on their site and take a look. Now let's take a look at some other, again, from Silflor, but not as readily available here in the States. Now, these items, similar. They're smaller mats with a little bit more detail on them. And they are called, at least in German, if I say it correctly, Waldwunschgebet, and Frühherbst to be in early spring. Now, you can see the number series that these are in. So if you look at the Te-miniatur website, you'll see them. Or some of the German sites, some of the German hobby shops, you might be able to find them there. Again, I did get these through Scenic Express as a special order when I brought in a lot of items from them. So that's how I got a hold of these. And you can see these are similar, roughly the same thickness, but they have other items throughout the mat. You can see there's some other bushes, some other type of foliage built in among. And again, I apologize, I don't have studio lighting, so hopefully this focuses so at least you can kind of see the detail of it. And again, the intent is not to take it out, lay it down, and you're done. Again, the intent to be kind of cut up, worked in amongst the scene as needed, blended with other foliage and other items. But they are very, very nice. Again, I hope it does justice here with the camcorder. You can see what that looks like. Definitely much more three-dimensional, vertical, as opposed to, again, I'm going to harp on just, ground foam with clump foliage. In my opinion, your mileage may vary, but it is not, to me, what scenery should be. And you can kind of see through that. You see the white there in the background. So again, it is able to be stretched out a little bit thinner, add some other materials in it. Again, you get their relatively simple instructions, and it appears that in English, because here's the same thing, and that's called a proliferation area, early fall. Same item. See, it's the same part number as this one, where it is the Waldwunschgebiet, Frühherbst, which I think sounds so much more cool than proliferation area. But I also did pick up some proliferation areas for summer, and they're similar, just a kind of difference in the colors that you see throughout it, but very similar overall. They're all kind of meant to be used together. So I picked up 3 of those and 3 of the early fall. Again, special order when I ordered a bunch of other items through Scenic Express. Again, not inexpensive. I paid a lot of money for this stuff, but I knew going into it, I wanted my scenery to look a lot like, the European German layouts I see, especially by, like I said, by Josef Brondel and Wolfgang Longmesser and others that just do beautiful, beautiful scenery work. That's what I'm going to try. I don't know if I'll succeed. I'm going to try to emulate it, and in order to start that, you have to have the same products. So, that is some of the Silflor items. Now let's look at some of the other items from Silflor Miniatur that I got from the special order as well. Alright, these are probably some of the more expensive things that I purchased with that special order. But in looking through, again, some of those Eisenbahn journals of what Josef Brondel had done, it finally dawned on me that what I was reading, what he was using are these. These are what they call the Filigran Busch. These are actually items 211, 12, 13, 14, which are, they call them filigree bushes. Spring, summer, early fall, late fall. And you can look at what they look like, and they just look fantastic. They are similar, look at them close, they're similar to what the Super Tree material looks like, but these have obviously been finished. Super Trees don't come like this. These are pretty much not quite exactly ready for use. You still have to go through and do some cleanup. That's why I can see they look a lot like whatever the material is that's used for the Super Trees. But these are very nice. You can see kind of the structure. This is I believe the early fall set, just to kind of get a look at it. And you can break them apart, and then you use them. Again, you don't just take them and clump them on the layout. You cut them, into smaller sizes. You can make trees out of them, bushes, shrubbery and whatnot. It just looks fantastic when it's applied correctly. So this is kind of what you get with these. And again, if you look in there, you'll notice you can see some of the things you got to clean up a little bit. There's one right there. You see, I can't touch it because I have one hand's holding it and one hand's with a camcorder, but you can see So it does need a little bit of cleanup. But overall, these look very, very nice. And again, they're not meant to be placed right onto the layout, but you can envision when you get those kind of worked and how they're going to look when you get them cleaned up, placed, shaped, and then installed on the layout the way you want them. I think they're going to look fantastic. So I purchased quite a few of these. Again, not a cheap date. Scenic Express does not stock these, and you know, these are expensive. Although the exchange rate now, US dollar to euro, is probably the best I've seen it in years. So now is probably the time to strike on some of this stuff. So these are the Filigran Busch. I have a lot of these, not enough because these will go relatively quickly when you start actually scenic in the layout. But there's a limit to even what I can spend, because again, these are not inexpensive. Just go look at the miniature site, and you'll see these are, if I recall, somewhere in the €40 range for one. So yeah, I'm nuts. But again, I brought them over a special order. Did get a little bit of a special pricing since I was placing a large order. So these look very nice, and I'm really looking forward to getting these placed around the layout. So there's a couple other items again that are not available, at least not yet, last I looked, through Scenic Express directly. So let's take a look at those as well. Okay, these items are what they call shrubs. They have low shrubs and high shrubs. And I picked up more of the low shrubs, which are items 251-02, which are low summer. 03 is low early fall, and 04 is low late fall. And then also in a similar series to the 250 series, 250-12 are high shrubs summer, and you also got some high shrubs early fall. Again, these are very nice. Let me see if I can get these open for you. And these are not available. Again, last I looked, these I brought in special order via Scenic Express. But let's see, get one open so you can get a kind of look at what these look like. Okay, so here's a sample of these taken out of the box or the container. You can see what they look like. Again, these are meant to be shrubs, and these pretty much are ready just to plant right on the layout. Don't need to do a whole lot more to these. Hopefully you can see how they look, the detail. They look very nice. And those are the low shrubs. And the high shrubs. You can see oh, hopefully this thing focuses. Never seemed to go. Okay. You can see what they look like. Yeah, this can be broken apart, teased up a little bit, but this is pretty much a nice set ready to go right onto the layout. You can kind of see how they look. And again, these are roughly maybe 3 inches tall or so, and these are about an inch and a half, 2 inches tall. You can see the size comparison between the low and the high shrubs. Again, these look very nice, so wanting to try these, I ordered those as well, special order through Scenic Express. Now there's one other item that I thought was not available, but apparently is, so let's take a look at that. All right, these two items, which are pretty cool, are their Rhododendron, and I have the 25300 green and the 06 violet. And like I said, I must have got these, I thought I ordered them special, but you can see a Scenic Express label, so I'm thinking they are available now through Scenic Express, which is great. Probably going to pick up some more of these. Usually you can see what they are. Again, they're not all that large, and they're kind of meant to be placed where you would find rhododendron. Although they kind of look like, you know, the ones that are the green just kind of look like nice normal shrubs. And then the ones that are violet, I think look pretty cool as well. Kind of see what they look like. So there's a back side where you could adhere it. So if, for whatever reason, we had some, say, some rhododendron here by our bridge, which I don't know that we would, but you can kind of see what they look like. It was kind of odd with the dark green back there, but so they're nice. Very nice product. And Apparently available through Scenic Express. So that's their Rhododendron. And there's a series of them. Obviously, if I bought 00 and this is a 06, there's more in between there. Different colors. I think they have a yellow, a red, and whatnot. So these are pretty nice to have. Again, good for a little bit of color, and also good for some nice sized shrubs that you could plant around the layout. And as evidenced here by the label, I'm thinking they're available at Scenic Express. That's good news. So that is most of the special order stuff. I'm not going to cut. Well, real briefly, I'll cover some other stuff, Silflor, but it's much more well known. All right, now these are much more, I guess, popular and probably well known. I'll just cover them real briefly. You know, they make a lot of other items, again, available through our friends at Scenic Express. You know, they have, you know, the grass pathways, agrarian stripes of different sizes. That's an early autumn. And here's agrarian stripes with leaves. Again, that's early autumn. They have, this is a flower assortment. This is smaller sheets, different colors. Again, you kind of cut them up and tease them into the landscape to get more a flowery meadow. Horsetail foliage. This is a late summer variety, and they have a summer variety and others as well. This is kind of what I have left over. Kind of see the texture. That's good for weeds and barbs and, you know, stuff that's buried inside culverts and low areas where there's water around ponds and whatnot. That's good stuff for that. Flower assortment in the goldenrod. Again, this is different colors, all very similar type stuff that you kind of cut in half. You can stick around the layout to get some different color. And then this is the goldenrod. And then, of course, you have the tufts. I think we're all aware of that. The various different tufts. Buffalo grass is a pretty popular stuff. And then they have late summer, early summer, spring, autumn. These are just some of the ones I had left over from the other layout. Very handy. Just kind of peel them off, get some scenic cement or whatever other adhesive you're using. Perhaps Mod Podge. M-O-D, Mod Podge. Sorry, I just had to comment on that. And then they have other foliage for trees, maple foliage, summer, maple foliage late fall and early fall, and all different stuff. And beech trees, beech foliage. Again, this can also be kind of used, and if used properly, for shrubs and, you know, low-lying bushes and whatnot. But they make, you know, pretty nice trees as well. And again, all of this stuff, Scenic Express. All these items here, I all purchased all this directly through Scenic Express. No special order. So a lot of real good, readily available Silflor products at Scenic Express. So that kind of wraps up the Silflor miniature products. Let's take a look at some other items. Okay, Heki. What the Heki? Heki products. A lot of very good items. All of this available through Scenic Express. So this is easy to obtain and very, very useful. I use a lot of this on the previous layout and can highly recommend their products. So we're just going to briefly show the items that I have here ready to roll on the new layout. There's a bunch of items here. This is basically items 1553, 56, and 57. Different colors of Heki floor. Different colors. Again, this is can be pulled and stretched, used as ground cover, shrubs, even some foliage. Now, I like the colors, and again, I don't know if this will show. I'm not going to open the packages just because I'll get all over the layout. The different colors that you can get. I like the colors. They're kind of nice, subdued colors. And they make others. Again, I only have these three. So there certainly are others in the series. And again, these can be kind of pulled and stretched and laid in amongst rocks and ground coverage and whatnot. The other items, this is basically their Wiesenglas series. You can see I have several different ones here, starting with the 1589, which is a Gelb, aka yellow. Let's see what it's called there. It's all in German, so our German friends are way ahead of us. And I guess it's basically meadow grass. And this is stuff you can kind of open up. They're not huge sheets, but you can open them, stretch them, pull them, And you can see they have a backing with the main product kind of on top. Again, it can be stretched and then strewn amongst other ground coverage or some dirt, soil to give you a nice look. This is their medium green. And then they have other colors as well, which is kind of, they have a nice variety here. This is Herbst, which I believe is fall. Raspblüte, which is a nice yellow color. You can see how it's kind of stretched and placed on your layout. And the last one I have, which is the 1594 Mountain Meadow. I like that one. That's a nice. And I just like the texture of it, the color of it, and the way it looks. Hopefully, it shows up okay with the plastic here. I also saw this when I just kind of ordered this. This is one of their larger. Basically Valglas Matten, and it's a different material than the Silflor stuff. You can see there it's kind of thin, has a paper backing. So that's something I wanted to try to see how it works. Again, it might take a little different technique than using the Silflor, but picked it up and wanted to try it. This is some of the series of their Blätterflor, which is leaf foliage, basically. Kind of similar to the stuff that Silflor makes. It's a little different texture, but again, it's good stuff. And you can see I bought several in the series. This being the medium green. Then I got one of the dark green. You can see the difference there. And then I got one for autumn. Oops, sorry for the glare there. And another autumn, just a different shade, more of a gold type color. So those products there are very, very useful in that series. And then finally, not that this is all they make, but I really like their Valglas series. This is one of the smaller packets. They make them in larger packets, which I recommend. But this is their dark green. And then I also have three other large packs. You can see here the numbers. Same type material, just in a little more economical package. See, it's a little bit larger, so you get quite a bit more. And again, this is really good to be pulled. You can pull it out real thin and kind of lay it amongst. It's real good for. I used quite a bit of this stuff in this piece, which I had to redo, but you can kind of pull it and lay it in amongst rock castings in areas like this, over top of rocks and whatnot. So it's really nice stuff. Very, very, very highly recommended. And again, you get several different colors. And I apologize for the glare here. I'm just kind of shooting this on the layout, but you can see the different items. And oh, here, reflection of a camcorder. You don't get that if you buy the product. But good stuff. Very nice stuff. Heki makes some really good scenic products. Again, luckily, a lot of this, all available. Much more available here in the States. So I recommend you check it out. Again, you can go to the Scenic Express website. I keep harping on them, but they have a good selection. And you can usually find the products that you're looking for. Not that you can't purchase the stuff elsewhere. I'm sure there's other locations you can get it. But for me, once I find a spot that's got it. Now, the one downfall, not downfall, but Scenic Express doesn't really discount stuff. It's all pretty much list price, at least in my experience. But they have it, it's available, it ships quick, and you can actually get it. So I still recommend, I still go to them quite a bit. So those are Heki items, again, a little more well-known. Now, let's look at some products that probably aren't as well-known. I say that, could be totally wrong, we'll see in the comments section. But items that I found that are a little more harder to find. You can't get them through Scenic Express at all. Not that I've asked them to special order stuff, but they don't carry any of these other items that we're going to cover next. So let's take a look at some of these lesser-known products. Alright, the next set of items are from M. P Scenery Products. And I purchased these from a gentleman up in Canada. GLX scale models, I believe it is. I'll put a subtitle down, hold the camcorder so it shows up real nice here. And I'll put more information also down in the description. And like I said, these are Canadian. His prices are real good. And right now, as of January 2016, when I'm making this portion of the scenery update, the exchange rate for us USers is very, very favorable. So go to the site and buy some stuff while the exchange rate is good. And what these are, saw these on this site, as well as some items we're going to cover next, and decided to pick them up because the pricing was so good. And I got a couple different items. You can look through his site. These are some green climbing vines that look kind of similar to some of the Heki items, but looked interesting. This is a little pack here that's called Love Grass. Okay, I'm not sure what that means, but pardon me, but it's kind of basically some taller grass, shrubs, and again, these can be cut, oops, sorry for the glare, and placed around your layout. This type of stuff might be good for locations, you know, such as in here, when I'm weathering this and scenicking this up with, you know, items such as that. So, and then there's a bunch of foliage clusters. Again, I bought a whole bunch of the series here. These are light green. These are foliage. Could be for trees, or probably ripped apart for low bushes and shrubs. So there's a light green, medium green, and dark green. And I realize the glare and won't be able to see the colors too well, but and then I got into some clump foliages, because you know, clump foliage does have its use, and these look kind of interesting. So I picked up some, again, some light green, light green. This is light green. Well, I'm sorry, light green fine, light green coarse. This is medium green fine, medium green coarse, dark green fine, and dark green coarse. So I kind of ran the gamut there on those. Then they also had some ground cover. This is very similar to woodland scenic stuff, but I just wanted to try it. Again, the prices are pretty good, especially with the exchange rate, so I love trying new stuff. So I decided to buy some. So this is ground cover earth, ground cover burnt grass, and it's coarse. I'm sorry, okay, so the earth fine, burnt grass coarse, moss green fine, and moss green coarse. And looking at it, it does look very similar to the woodland scenic stuff, so not sure it's going to be drastically different, but again, I like to try stuff. And then there's some blended turfs, again, very similar, woodland scenics. This is a fine green blended turf. This is a medium green blended turf. This is an autumn mix that's fine. And this is an autumn mix that's medium. And there are the different part numbers, but go to the site. It's a pretty easy to navigate site. Pretty well laid out, so you can certainly see all the items there. Then I picked up some of these. These look very similar. I'm sure a lot of folks are aware of JTT scenery items. They're actually made by MRC. These are some light green branches. Very similar to those. In fact, it looks like almost the same thing. But again, the prices were good, so I picked some up. And these are the light green. And they also got medium green. Then they had some foliage leaves. So I got some of their dead leaves. Dried leaves, dried leaves. Kind of like for, you know, ground fall, you know, ground cover in a wooded area. Some light green. These look kind of similar to the Notch. I don't know if it's Notch or Notch. If I pronounce it wrong, I'm sure I'll get a comment. NOCH, the German guys. Looks similar to their leaf material. So there's a light green, a medium green, and a dark green. And again, you might just want to look it out just because the prices for those buying in US dollars are very favorable. Okay, they also had cattails. I picked those up. They looked pretty interesting. I'm not sure how well it might show through the plastic here with the camcorder. And the reason I say that these are products, some of them look very similar to JTT, because I also happened to pick up another time. Here's some by JTT. And they sure look similar to me. In fact, if you look real close at this, might not be able to read it, but it says made in, you can't read, I'm sorry, but it's made in Vietnam. Okay, well, guess what? The stuff here from JTT, look where it's made in Vietnam. So I'm thinking the same company in Vietnam made it for both JTT and MP scenery products, at least this particular item. But they look fine. I mean, they look okay. They look a little bit, in fact, the glare. The JTT ones look a little bit lighter, a little bit brighter, I should say, green, where the MP products look more a darker olive type green color. So those two are there. So those are MP scenery products. And again, I'll put the link down below where they're available. And also from GLX are the next manufacturer's items, which are model scene items. So let's take a look at those. All right, here we are. We're in the workshop. These are the model scene mats, similar to the Silflor mats. Again, available at the GLX site. And they're from Czechoslovakia. So, European, again, in nature. And these are fairly nice. I got several different ones. You can see here, this is a little more three-dimensional, a little more bulky. It's a wild area with bushes in the spring. And there's a wild area with bushes late summer and early summer. And again, they're similar in nature. They're not quite as large as the Silflor mats. And you can see the price there. That's Canadian. So currently there's about a 40% or so discount for those with US dollars. And here's what it looks like. Try to get it under the light so you can get a pretty decent look at what it might look like. And again, you don't necessarily take it out like this and plop it down. You cut it and you can thin it and spread it out. On the back, you can see kind of a base material, almost kind of like a furnace filter, for lack of something better. If you can see there how the foliage is kind of attached to the base mat. And again, you can cut it and rip it and use it as needed on the site. But that's pretty nice. I mean, that's pretty realistic looking when you look at it like that. Hopefully that's focused. So, again, good for embankments alongside the railroad or other areas. So this is one of the wild area ones. I think it's the early summer version that I just took out so you could get a better look at it. And you also have other items. These are a little bit thinner. This is they call forest base. There's a bunch of forest base ones. This is called dense forest. And I apologize for the glare there from the lights. Again, I guess I need to get a more professional studio. And this is this is, again, forest base blueberries. Now, I'm not sure that there's many blueberries in forests, but what do I know? But I like it for the color. Again, this is one that you probably would want to cut up and intersperse, again, amongst other ones. And this is again a forest base late summer. And this one's kind of interesting. If you can see in there, it's got rocks already positioned in it. It's even got some tree trunks, branches laid in there. So this is a pretty interesting one. Again, the darn glare from the lights probably doesn't help much, but it's not going to work. but again, looks pretty good. And then they have what they call their basically meadows. This is a meadow high grown late summer. So kind of a more subdued light brown color. This is a summer meadow with small tufts. Small troughs. T-R-U... What's that say? Anyway. T-R-U-R-F-S. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. But you can kind of see what that looks like. I realize it's through the plastic. And this is a fallow field late summer. So again, kind of a more, because we're kind of modeling, you know, September-ish in that time frame. Not quite fall. There might be a few trees here and there that are just starting to show color, but not full fall. So I get a lot of late summer, early spring, or early fall, mid-fall type colors. And this is low bushes. This is kind of neat. This is one where I bought these because I could see these being cut up and put along embankments. Maybe these are kind of nice. Let me pause. Try to take these out because the darn glare just doesn't do it any good. So stand by for a second. Okay, let's try this. So now it's out of the plastic. And this is the low bushes late summer. And you can see the backing material. And you can see what that looks like. Let's see if the light looks okay. If I get the camcorder in close. That looks pretty nice. And then this is an autumn color. So you can see the, yeah, he says, working with one hand. You can see the difference in the late summer to the autumn. And again, these will be cut up. You get them in. You can even, you know, then airbrush some other colors on these to change the colors a little bit, add some more variety. Or if you wanted a little different color, a little different tone. But I think they look fairly nice and they're fairly detailed. So I recommend you check them out. I might go back again since the exchange rate is still so darn good. I do kind of like these, the low bushes ones. Might pick up some more of those. And I think I have enough of the other items. But again, it's really worth it for those of us in the U.S. or going to use U.S. dollars because the exchange rate is very advantageous at the moment. So again, Model Scene, a Czechoslovakian manufacturer that are available, and I'll put the links down there. But from our friends here at glxscalemodels.com, Gilbert, and they swapped some emails. Very nice gentleman, very good to deal with. And they did have basically a flat $10 Canadian shipping charge, which again is very reasonable. So check it out. These Model Scene items are very interesting and a little different, slightly different than the Silflor items, but still very worthwhile of your consideration. So with that, let's move on to something that I was unable to find recently in the United States from a different manufacturer. Oops, 2 more Model Scene items that I forgot. Found them laying around the layout. Alright, so this one here is what they call an embankment early summer. It's kind of nice. It's similar to the ones you can see it's kind of got like a little path there down the center, and it's got some of the higher bushes on either side. So this is a pretty nice one, and they even show it. Darn those LED lights on the on their website where they cut this down here and brought it up to both sides of a railroad track. Obviously with the the ballast and everything, but it looked pretty nice. So that's another one. This is a sample set of some tufts similar to the silhouette miniature ones, but these are on a different backing, where the other ones are the silhouette one, or it is silhouette, but Silflor is the more common name. Excuse me. You just kind of pull those off and stick them. These are on this material, so you almost have to cut out the material and then glue it down. Then obviously put some ground foam or turf or soil around it to kind of cover in between. And when I was on the site, I saw this. It's pretty nice. This is a hart's tongue. You can see it's that kind of a bush there, and these are you cut them out and you make them so they're laser cut. And they have other ones of these. I just wanted to buy one to try it to see if I liked it. You can see the scale there. They call it 1/72 to 1/87, so it might be a little large for HO. Again, I've never gone out and measured these in real life, but and also available from Model Scene. So, okay, so that wraps up the Model Scene items. And now we'll move on to a different manufacturer. Alright, this next manufacturer, most likely, by a lot of us here in the US at least, might not be a very common name. I found these previously. I got some stuff for the old layout at an eBay store by someone who did sell from the United States. However, that individual, I contacted them again when I was building the new layout. Apparently they lost their contact, I believe it was in Germany. And I was trying to scramble to try to find someone to import these to the States. Well, I did some digging around and actually found a hobby shop, or a seller in Germany that sells stuff, and they do have an eBay store on ebay.de, not ebay.com. Well, I contacted him and asked about shipping and whatnot, and we worked up a deal where he sent me basically a box of a certain size for a certain amount of money that I could pretty much fill up with anything up to the weight limit, and that's what I did. So this manufacturer is Polak, P-O-L-A-K, and they do have a website. You can see it there. I'll post the links down below or on the subtitle here on the screen. They make interesting products. The main thing that I purchased from these folks for use on the old layout and this layout are their series of wild bushes. They're pretty nice looking. I'm going to pause here in a moment, open the box, get out of the darn plastic so we can take a look at it. They also do sell other items that I decided to try, such as these are low bushes. You can kind of see what they look like. Again, kind of pre-made, ready to be popped out and glued down on the layout. They do make several different, mostly flower type mats. Similar to the other mats we've seen from other manufacturers, but I had to fill a box up, so I decided to try some of these. So these are white-red flowers. You have white flowers, short flowers. And this is yellow. I got two yellows, two short flowers that are yellow. And again, they're similar. They can be placed on the side, and you can kind of see through them there. Maybe with the white, you might be able to see that they're kind of lacy. So again, you'd pull these over some base ground cover, and it would help to make a covered embankment or a field or something like that. So those look pretty nice. This one here is a larger, and in fact I actually did lay that out. So this is a field of flowers white. That's a larger size. They make different sizes. Things bobbing back and forth there. And again, you can see what it looks like. Kind of see the thinness of it. Now they do have a note here on the back to remove the PE foil. So this brown foil you would peel off before you place it on. But it looks pretty nice. It's going to be a pretty good area again for an embankment or a field somewhere. And again, you don't just take these things and put them straight down. I guess you could, but the intent would be that you cut it up and have different pieces and other types of landform and bushes and shrubbery and whatnot in between it. So those are some of their flower mats. They make this product. This is from the old layout because I used part of this. This is a mountain pasture. Now again, this is really thin, and you can see the white backing on this. And similar to this one, which is another mountain pasture. different variation, different part number. This is a 4854, the other is a 4851. It's got slightly different foliage on it. And you can see again it's thin, and this you would cut up and place in amongst, again, other ground coverings, and then use other material in between it to build the scene up. But they're pretty nice mats. And like I said, the main reason, probably before I move on to them, they do also sell what they call reeds, different types. These are kind of similar to the woodland scenics. You know, probably familiar with those. But again, I was ordering some, and I decided to pick up a dark green box, a light green box, a beige box, and then an assortment. So those would be kind of good to have, you know, around the pond scene, in different areas as we build it up. Again, very similar to the Woodland Scenics products, but I wanted to try it, so I bought them. Now, the items that I was mainly interested in, because I haven't seen something like this from other manufacturers quite like this, are their wild bushes. And they make a different variety of them. Okay, this one here is Brombeeren. Okay, I'm not sure exactly what that means, but again, if you can kind of see through, you can see how it's, you know, kind of lacy through it. And then these are designed to be cut and placed on the layout as individual or groups of the bushes. So let me open one of these up, get out of the plastic so we can take a closer look. Okay, so here's two sets. I just pulled them out of the boxes to get a look at them. And again, these are kind of shipped as individual wild bushes that you can then basically cut out and place around the layout as needed. You can kind of see, try to get this, hopefully this shows okay. Kind of see what they look like. You can see what they're you know, they're all secured to a base mat, and then you can, you know, cut out close around them and secure them to the layout. Now this set is pretty much, you can see through that. You see the white there in the background. So with this particular one, and this is the larger set, you might actually be able to cut and use it more as a group, only because you could stretch this base out and then sprinkle other foliage, ground cover, you know, dirt, soil, earth, whatever you want to sprinkle around it, static grass, whatever, to build things up. So so you can see what that one looks like. I'll try to get in there so you can see and again, you cut them out and form them. Now this mat is a little bit smaller in size, and, you know, kind of made up, yeah, somewhat more individual. You cut out individual ones, so I don't know how well this will show. It seems to be focusing okay. So again, you gotta kind of see what they look like. So, and these will be rather large. Tell you what, let me just get a HO scale figure for some comparison here. All right, so there's a strapping fellow. You can see, you know, those figures are roughly about 6 foot HO scale. So you can see that those bushes are going to be, you know, somewhat larger, at least in comparison to the scale figure. You can see how they scale. The other ones aren't quite as large. Let me see if I can carefully. Oh, geez, sorry, buddy. And if I kind of stick them over here. All right, you can see they're still pretty large. Again, this will be for a wild area, you know, a brushy area, scenic area, somewhere along the right of way or something like that. So I bought a different variety of the packs. They make quite a few, and I'll put the link, at least where I found them, at this the gentleman's eBay store. Now it is eBay DE, so it's from Germany. But if you contact him, he was very easy to work with in terms of getting a shipment here, if you're so inclined. A lot of folks might not want to go through that effort or expense, and I get it. But I just wanted to try something different. So I got, you know, several of those, and I got several different varieties of these for use. So interesting. So and we'll put the information for the eBay store. He does have a web presence, but it directs you to the eBay store. But if you're interested, you can always order through eBay, or I just contacted him, like I said, contacted him through eBay, told him what I wanted to do, and we worked it out, and I paid him through PayPal, you know, outside of eBay, and worked fine. And within about a week or so, 2 weeks maybe, I had the rather large box from him come over from Germany. So again, so these are Polak items. Might want to consider some of them. Take a look at the gentleman's store. And again, these are not, I can't guarantee it, but I don't think you're going to find these anywhere in the United States. They're not at Scenic Express. I've looked around. I've done Google searches. You know, I don't even think up in Canada they have them. They might. I'm not sure. But again, some of these European products are kind of interesting, different, very well done. Some might want to consider it if you're trying to push your scenery to that next level. So, all right. So that's wraps up these different manufacturers. Let's move on and maybe see if we can take a look at some other items that might be of interest. Another company, and these guys located in the U.S., so it's very easy to order from, is Monster Model Works. The site is monstermodelworks.com. Mostly structure type items. I learned of the site, you know, listening to a podcast, Scotty Mason podcast, and he went on into business, does a lot of laser cutting, and makes very, very interesting products that you might want to try. Some of the things I picked up from them are their diorama dirt, which again, just to try it, looks like a good color for a basic ground covering. And again, it can be sifted to get real fine stuff. I'm not going to be able to open it here with one hand, but it looks like a good dirt color for use as a base layer, dirt roads and whatnot. And he also makes several really interesting products, several of which I've purchased. These are poured concrete with forms, the cracked concrete, which I showed in one of the earlier updates, used in CP97 as the old concrete road that went up to access the site, the interlocking. And he makes them both with no joints and with joints, cracked and non-cracked. I bought the cracked for both of them because I'm a little cracked in the head. But again, he does make them, I believe, you know, smooth as well. Recently came out with another product, damaged asphalt, which again are sheets, and it's all wood. So it's all, if you're used to working in that medium, you should be very comfortable working with it. And you can go to the site and you can read all about his items. Just wanted to kind of show these because I've used them. I used several of these on the old layout for a parking area. Turned out very well. Once you got it in and painted and weathered, looked really good. He also has some concrete block foundation starter kits, and I recently just picked up a retaining wall kit. That's a nice kit. He tells you how to go through and handle it. He's also got some how-tos information on the site, so I highly recommend it. Go check it out. And here you can kind of see what they look like. They're very nice. Again, it's all you know, wood products. He makes also a line, not so much, I'm not going to show them because they're not really scenery related, but he does make a lot of brick walls, different type of brick walls for use in building structures. And it's all wood. So those of us that have built, you know, craftsman structure kits out of wood and enjoy working in that medium, he makes a lot of items to be very helpful in scratch building structures. So if you're not aware of it, check it out. It's a very good site. It's at monstermodelworks.com. All right, made right here in the US of A. So some good products. So I just wanted to kind of highlight some of those because some of these are going to be very useful for scenery. Again, for parking lots, damaged you know, asphalt areas, the different concrete products. Yeah, I believe he's got maybe some cobblestone for roads and what other items. But check out the site. It's very good. Nice site, good pictures for looking at stuff, and a lot of unique, interesting products. So again, check out monstermodelworks.com. All right, two other interesting items that might be useful. These are from Busch, and they're asphalt. Basically, they call them decor sheets. You can see the part number there, 7416, and these look really nice. I picked these up. I was going to use them on the old layout before we decided to tear it down. But if you can see, if that shows okay, again, it's kind of a beat up grimy looking asphalt, for use as a parking lot. Even has a manhole there in it. Really nice. I think they look good. I think you got these installed in in an area where you could use something like this. I think it would look pretty darn good. And, might not need a whole lot of additional weathering. They really do look pretty nice as they are. So you can see what you get there. You get 2 sheets, 210 by 148 millimeters. All right, divide that by 25.4 for us imperial measurement people. So they look pretty good. Again, I'm looking forward to probably using these somewhere in the yard area, around the engine facility, something like that. But they're nice looking, very nice looking. And I have 3 of these from Busch. And these obviously are much more available to us here in the U.S. But really nice product, and just wanted to kind of show you that. And it's certainly something worth considering for a parking area or a large asphalt area on the layout. Let's look at a few of the websites for the manufacturers and for sources. Not in extreme detail, but just to show you where they are. Obviously, Te-miniatur has a site. It is miniature.de, and you can look through their site and look at that. They even have an SP daylight locomotive. Good site. You can go through it. You can click on English. I tend to keep it in German. I've kind of got used to the German terminology and the product IDs and whatnot. For Model Scene, they do have a website as well. And again, these guys are from the Czech Republic, and you can look through their site. For Polak, they do have a site as well. Not quite as detailed, but you can get through and you can look at all the various products and the different bushes that we showed before, and some of the meadows, the mats and whatnot. That's the Polak site. MP Scenery, they also have a site. Like I said, these folks are in Vietnam, but this is their site, and they might manufacture for themselves, and like we showed, some of the JTT items as well. Sure look like they come from this particular manufacturer. So those are some of the different manufacturers. In terms of where to obtain the products, probably the granddaddy of them all, of course, is Scenic Express. Great site. They have very well stocked, relatively quick shipping, and you can get a lot of the different manufacturers' items that we showed are available through Scenic Express. Not all of them. There are some you cannot get, but you can search by manufacturer, and you can see they have a lot of the Silflor products. They have a lot of they do have some of the grass mats. They have a lot of the tufts, flowering meadows, static grass. They have a lot of the Heki stuff, the deco grass and the wild grass. They have the notch products. I especially like their leaves for doing trees. And they have Busch, and of course they have all the JTT as well. So it's a good site, really good site. The prices aren't always discounted, but they make up for that by having the items in stock. You can actually get the items. So highly recommended. For the let me go here to Model Scene. To get Model Scene, they do not offer those through Scenic Express. However, glxscalemodels.com, up in Canada, they do have them, and they're relatively good priced. You can click through and you can see all the various products that they have. These are much of the mats that we purchased, and if you click on the picture, you get a nice picture. You can kind of see what it looks like. So highly recommended to go to GLX for the MP products and Model Scene. The prices are good. The prices here are on Canadian dollar. So for us US-based folks, that's been beneficial recently. Not sure exactly what the rates are today. And he charges a flat $10 shipping charge. So very reasonable. Highly recommend. And he's also got some very good 3D products as well. So highly recommended. The other location, you can go to kotal.de to buy stuff. It's German. They will ship to the States, but it's pretty pricey in terms of the shipping. But you can go there. They do sell a lot of the miniature stuff, and even some of the Filigran Busch and the other mats that are not available at Scenic Express, at least normally. Now, in terms of the Polak items,
This is where I purchased them from. He actually has an online shop which takes you to an eBay shop. Now, when I purchased, you can search here, you can look at the products. They're in Euro because he's obviously in Europe. However, I contacted him directly and we set it up. I kind of told him what I wanted and he sent me a price and I paid him through eBay. It was fairly reasonable. I ordered a bunch of stuff, filled up a box for a certain rate, and had it about a week and a half later. So I recommend it for the Polak items. You can look at his items here. You can see what he has. I did not go for any of the static grasses or anything like that, but some of the mats and the bushes that we showed. This is where I purchased them from. There was another eBay member that had them in the States. It was Mini Highway. However, recently he stopped carrying them, and you can kind of see why. His contact over there unfortunately passed away, but he did carry the Polak items. But unfortunately, as of now, I do not see them in his shop anymore. But he does have a shop with some decent items. So those are some of the recommendations on where to go to purchase these items and some of the manufacturer's sites to look at it, get some background stuff. Recommend you go in there and do some searching. That kind of covers it for this area. But again, Google's a wonderful thing. You can look these guys up on Google. That's pretty much how I found most of their sites. The manufacturer sites I knew about just from having purchased from them before. And like I said, the one item that Scenic Express does not carry, at least not yet, are the, let me just go here and show this here. This is their shop online. And if you go into the HO scale items here, go way to the bottom. Fallwunschgebiet, those are the ones that I showed you in the 732 series. Scenic Express does not carry these, nor do they carry the Filigran Busch. However, I did get them through Scenic Express through a special order. Pricey. They had to wait for them to come over from Germany. Although I have talked to Jim at Scenic Express about my interest in them carrying these products. Since they do carry a lot of the other miniature silhouette items, they're considering it. So if you're interested, if you'd like to see these items a little bit more available here in the States, perhaps contact Scenic Express and tell them you'd like to, hey, I saw this guy's video, I want to see some of these products in your store. So maybe they'll start to carry them. I don't know. This concludes part 2 of the Scenery Special Edition. Hopefully you found the information on some unique and harder to find scenery products practical, useful, and maybe even inspirational. As we scroll through some scenes of Josip Brondl's work, this is our goal. This is what we're going to strive to on our layout. Whether we achieve it, yet to be seen. But we have the products, we have the inspiration, we have the goal. Now it's time to make it happen. Hopefully we can attain this level, but on our first try I kind of doubt it. But it does give us something to strive for and a goal as we try to achieve scenery at the level of the master. So thanks for watching, and hopefully it provided some inspiration to have you get your scenery to the next level.